So in this stage, we're looking outside ourselves for internal completion, which makes no sense. But we are coming back to the knowledge that we are already complete, that we are already an expression of the divine. In this evening's meditations, I'm going to be exploring an idea that happens to men in their early 20s. Now, I'm very aware that a lot of men are quickly subscribing to this channel because I am beginning to delineate some of the more challenging practical sides of personal development. Things like fasting, things like seminal retention, celibacy, weightlifting, meditation, all that good stuff. But I want to explore with you the primary rationality behind why you're actually proceeding to move in these veins of trying to improve yourself as an individual in the first place. Now, to help support me in this little journey we're going to go on of self-discovery, I have a reference of a book called Ego and the Archetype by Edward F. Edinger, and it's go into this exploration of ego self-union and ego self-separation. Now, I actually wrote a thread on my Twitter that I'm going to refer to because it actually helps explain this concept with a little bit more linear. So a general progression from beginning in adolescence and how we proceed to evolve through our late adolescence into our 20s, 24, 25. Now, I'm going to begin by delineating what happens during the first half of a man's life. So the first half of our lives as men is generally accepted among psychologists to include the evolution of the ego. Now, the ego you can think of as the idea of who we are, how big your bank account is, what job do you work out, what's your reputation like, who you're fucking, things of this nature. Who we represent in the world, essentially. Now, the crisis most men are facing around my age, so I'm about 25 years old, but it can happen earlier between that, let's say 20 to 25 years old, is the over-identification with the ego, with this idea of insert your name and what football team you support, what music you like, what people you hang around with. These individuals are easily identified by their obsession with image, with perception again, how they appear to others. These individuals will start doing things for how they will appear on Instagram. So they might want to appear to be having fun than actually having fun. The phrase, do it for the gram, comes to mind. This is also known as ego self-separation. Now, the second half of a man's life is where things begin to get a little bit more difficult because we have to start relating to this concept known as the self. Now, the self has many different names across many different cultures. In Greek, they might call it the pneuma. In Hinduism, they may call it the Atman. It may also become known to you as soul, spirit, universe, nature. Whatever synonym is most comfortable for you, I would implore you to use it. But I'm simply referring to this inner divinity in all of us. And you need only look into the eyes of another human and realize that you are a fragment of a greater collective whole. Jung described this as the collective unconscious, this central archetype, this product of universal patterns dictated by a whole history of the human race through religion, through myth, and all the stories connected to it. You are an amalgamation of a biological psyche, as it were, and this is referred to as the self. You will have come to know this inordinately large phenomenon, more typically in children. Okay, children have this inner whimsy around them. They are so close to the divine that they haven't developed that sense of identity, who they are, who they represent in the world, what job they have, and so on and so forth. They are so they are not plagued by identity because in their experience they are the whole world, and that is what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the self. And you are beginning to, I hope you are all beginning to come to the realization that when you get older, when you start to experience those moody, rebellious teenage years, you are creating that separation between those wondrous years when you were younger, when you had no troubles and you were present every single day. Every day was just an adventure. But you begin to lose that as you begin to become more identified with your ego, with mind, with your race, with your culture, with all these very trivial things. And this is the primary premise of this video, my brothers, because yes, you may want to move in this direction of improving yourself, and it is excellent that you are beginning to subscribe to this channel, even if it's not just mine, but proceeding to move in this vein of lifting weights, fasting, and improving yourself as an individual. That's good. These practices, the cornerstone of these practices is rediscovery of self. As much as you think you're perhaps building your body to appear more masculine and more valuable as a man, as your reputation increases, as your bank increases, what you're actually doing when you're beginning to explore some of the more challenging aspects of personal development, fasting, meditation, it is a stripping away of that ego. Because we are all stuck, and psychologists agree, any analytical psychologist with a known knowledge of Jung and some of his colleagues, Freud, they have an understanding that these things are based in very heavy religious concepts, beliefs, I want to speak about. And you have to take them into account because they are speaking to the fact that we are but a fragment of a higher collective soul. That, we are failing to recognize that the ego is but a mask on the face of who we truly are. And we are beginning to get a cognitive dissonance between that. And I want to bring you back home to that realization that you are an expression of the divine. And I don't need to be a preacher, I don't need to be a prophet, I don't need to be a priest to let you know that you are part of something greater than yourself. And again, that should be obvious to realize. My friends, I wanted to keep this a short video and kind of condense some really, really heavy psychological concepts into a short space of time, and I hope I've been able to explain that quite clearly. But there's this figure in this book which really helps explain with a little bit more clarity of which I'm speaking. So again, you can kind of see here from figure 1, that is what happens when we are children, when we haven't developed this ego, when the ego is fully integrated within self. And then as we begin to get older, venturing into those adolescents, we begin to see that separation, that development of who we believe we are in the world. And again, you see it gets more pronounced until we come to a place where we can no longer identify with self, and we are fully split from that inner divinity, that playful nature within ourselves that we lose when we're more concerned about our bills and how much money we're making and what car we're driving and the watch we're wearing. And we are stuck in this perpetual cycle of coming back to being whole. So we're in this stage, we're looking outside ourselves for internal completion, which makes no sense. But we are coming back to the knowledge that we are already complete, that we are already an expression of the divine. And again, I know I'm deep in esoteric territory here, but use whatever synonym is most helpful for you. If you are more of a scientist, you might want to take the perspective of Jung and say this is the self, this is a universal psychology that we all share. Some may call it as the witness. If you sit in deep meditation for long hours, you will realize that you can watch your thoughts and you can watch your emotions and feelings that arise in you. And if you can make that statement that if I can watch my thoughts and I can watch my feelings, then who is doing the watching? And that is also known as the witness, which is just another synonym of self, of soul, of spirit, of the Atman, of the Pneuma. These ideas have been around for a long time. I hope, and again, I want to be sensitive to your time, I hope this was an interesting chat. If you subscribe to anything of what I've said here, my friends, subscribe to me, and I will bring you something very good soon.